if you know them inside out.
Well, Mark Lee is from the Tax Advice Network. Mark, just going to the nub of this. For people who are lucky enough to have two homes, you tell the Inland Revenue which one is your first home, which one is your second home, but you are allowed to switch that declaration. Under what circumstances?
Well, the Revenue publish a help sheet, the Private Residence Relief 283, I think it is, and they say that they're not worried about the facts unless you don't make an election. And you can make an election as to which is your main residence for tax purposes at any time within 2 years of there being a change in the number of properties you have.
But is it one of these things that is obvious? You know, if one is clearly a small cottage by the seaside and one is a 5-bedroom family home, doesn't the Revenue take a view that it's obvious that the bigger one is the family home?
You might expect them to do that. They don't. The facility has been there for years to make this election, and anybody with more than one property has an accountant or a tax advisor who almost certainly advises them to make the election in the most attractive way possible.
And are you allowed then to switch this at a later stage, and if so, under which circumstances?
The Revenue allow you to change your mind, to revise the election, either if you sell one of the properties or if you buy another property, or indeed if you rent somewhere that's become your main residence.
OK, let's talk about some of the other taxes that apply with your property. If, for example, you have a tenant or someone renting a room, does that affect, you know, A, you've got tax on those earnings if they're above a certain amount, but does that affect your capital gains declaration as well?
It doesn't affect your capital gains position as long as the property's remained your main residence. And for income tax purposes, you're allowed to receive up to £4,250 a year from renting out a room on a furnished basis in your main home. And that's about £80 a week, and that's a figure that hasn't changed for over 10 years. Like the capital gains tax exemption, it's meant to facilitate the position to make life easy for people who aren't trying to fiddle their taxes. They've just let out a room, or maybe it's taken a while for them to sell their old house.
Does it make a difference if you've let out the entire property?
If you've let the entire property and it's never been your main residence, then you're fully taxable on the income that you make, less the expenses, and you'll pay capital gain tax when you sell the property as well.
OK, Mark Lee from Tax Advice Network, thanks very much for clearing up some of those points for us there.